to present our seminar today. Olga is Associate Professor of Sociology at the Department of Applied Sociology at Complutense University of Madrid. And during this academic year 2022-23, she has been visiting Associate Professor here at Geary Institute for Public Policy and a visiting researcher at the European Foundation for the Improvement of Living and Working Conditions, Eurofound, out in Loughlinstown. So today, Olga will be addressing, using the Eurofound COVID-19 data, Olga is going to be addressing the key question of whether both the recovery and the harsher impact of the pandemic has been evenly spread across the genders and age groups. So Olga.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to be here and to share my work. I must say this is a work in progress. And well, this is the result of my research at the Eurofound and here at the Institute. So, sorry. So we have, COVID-19 crisis is a unique crisis. It's a unique crisis. It is the first place, it is a global crisis, but it is also a multifaceted crisis. I mean, it is health crisis, economic crisis. It meant an unprecedented shock in global labor markets and economy, and it was like a kind of perverse natural experiment. I mean, for governments, what to do when everything goes wrong at the same time. So we are lucky because at the European Union, we've been very proactive. And lots of policies and measures have been implemented to hold the impact of the crisis. But it is true that it is at the same time a demand and supply crisis that affects private and social life and that changes everything. So it is really difficult to assess its impacts. And most of them are still unraveling and will be in the mid and long term with us. So my main message today is that we need more research on that. I mean, everything is not set yet. So the aim of my research is to investigate gender and age dynamics of recent trends in the labor market at the EU-27 level. Two short questions. To what extent the crisis has been a step backwards in terms of gender and generational equality? It has been the COVID crisis and the recovery a lift, equalizing everyone, because it is still like this. I mean, for men and women, the virus impact was more or less the same, and also in the labor market we will see that overall aggregate trends are quite equal for women and men. But we know that, I'm not going to do a summary of the literature. There is a lot of research already on those topics. But we already know that the labor market is a key place to understand the dynamics of gender and age inequalities. In one sense, it reflects what is in society, but at the same time, it is a kind of melting pot where everything is cooked, and then some of those inequalities are magnified. In my presentation, I will talk mainly about the main trends in employment. First, on employment rates, then on a complementary indicator, less studied as it is working hours, and then I will just give a quick look at some of the drivers of those trends, and particularly on the role played by education. And then I conclude with some reflections on the main question of the research. First, a few words about data and variables. I'm using labor force survey. And unfortunately, I was unable to use the microdata which are made available to researchers by Eurostat, because German data for 2020 are missing, simply are not there. So you cannot calculate aggregates at the European level. Then I base my analysis on the tables that you can download from the online database at the Eurostat, and also for the number of hours, I mean the volume and the average number of hours. We made a special petition and got an ad hoc extraction through Eurofound, because those series are not published. Then I refer to the average of for the European Union 27, working age population 1564, and the period of analysis is basically from 2019 to 2022, but I also sometimes go backwards until the beginning of the previous crisis. So I use three different employment indicators: the headcount employment in thousands, the employment rate, which is the employment to population ratio, and the actual hours weekly worked in the main job in the reference week, which means that to the respondents of the interview, of the survey, they say with how many hours they, in fact, I mean, really, they work, not usually, but actually, they work. And then I consider different age groups. Okay, so main trends in employment. Can we conclude that age and gender inequalities are growing or decreasing? There are basically two things we know about the labor market inequality by gender and age. That employment rates of women are much lower than men due to a gender division of labor. And also that young people are really, I mean, their rates, employment rates are just half. In this figure, we can, I mean, it is summarize what happened here. As we can see, I mean, the gap, the gender gap was much higher in 2007. But at the beginning of the crisis, I mean, before the crisis in 2019, it was around 10.6. And at the end, it is more or less the same, but it didn't grow. I mean, it would have expected to increase the differences among women and men in their behavior in the labor market, but they're there. Okay. Okay, this is the gender gap. So, emphasizing The consequences of the COVID crisis were really hard. I mean, over 5 million employments were lost just in the two first quarters of 2020. It was quite similar, 3/4 of the total loss in 5 years in the previous global financial crisis. And then there was an apparent gender equilibrium in those losses. So, yes. So we can see here how for males, the comparison between 2020 and 2019 in the second quarter was 2,680 employments less, and for women it was 2,400, I mean almost 500. In relative terms, it is -2.6, -2.8. So it gave the impression that gender was not important for the virus. Gender was not important for the labor market impacts. Then, if we take the end of the period in 2022, we can see that there's been an unexpected and really fast recovery of employment. Over 2,007,000, and then again even a stronger dynamism for females than for males. Okay, so where are you? Here. Okay, so while male employment increased by 0.7%, female employment increased by 2%. These are the differences by age summarized here. This is the comparison between 29 and 22, and we can see there is a very clear linear pattern, and very similar for men and women. And then if we take 2022 as the point of comparison, the profile changes completely. So here we have a U-shaped profile by age, which means that the more dynamic groups were the youngest, under 25, and the oldest, over 50.
Just real quick,
Yes.
It might be interesting on the previous slide,
Yes.
rather than doing 2019 as the base for both, at 2019 to 2020, and then sort of the dip and then the recovery. Because here you're sort of getting the overall effect of both the dip and recovery.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it depends on what you want to focus
Yes.
on.
Yes.
You see it huge, it'd be really dramatic for the younger group, right? Because you've got this huge drop and then this
Yeah.
increase.
And it is
Anyway.
even stronger if you take the 15, 19 years. So, I mean, well, like have it here also. The thing is that, are these good news or bad news? We don't know. I mean, can we conclude that the consequences of the COVID crisis, I mean, together with the recovery, are positive in terms of gender and age inequality? For women, we have just seen. I mean, 1,009 million more employment for females, and only 700 for males. So seems good news. And also for young people, good news. So okay, let's go. Let's go home. Everything is in. we have to take in mind that there are targets for the European Union based on employment rates. So these are headcount, which is the base for employment rates, doesn't change much. So we are in a good way. I mean, we can read these results as a story of success for the European Union policies, which has been, its impulse has been really important, really decisive. So we have a good picture here. But is that the answer to our question? Well, it wasn't the answer that I wanted. So I kept just torturing the data and trying to understand what was behind that. If we take the evolution, the trend, taking 2007 as a point of departure, as a benchmark, we can see that most of what happened during the COVID crisis was just part of a previous trend. But for the younger groups, this is females, 25, 29, this is males, the same age, and in blue is a disaster. They fall and then they jump. So, is that believable? I don't know. I just compare with what happened in the 2008 crisis. And after the same quarters, this was the situation. For young people, they had lost almost 11% of their employment among females and almost 13% for males. This is summarize what happened between 2019 and 2022, and it is like a loop. I don't know the name. Those you go with the kids. Okay, so yes, thank you. So there is lights and shadows. It is true that employment growth was better for females than for males, but it is also true that there was some imbalances. Women, for instance, represent 46% of the total employed population, but their losses were 52%. Probably this is not enough to worry. But what about under 30? They represent 18% of the employed population, but 50% of the total losses. Then it is true the exceptional intervention of governments and EU policy created a kind of bubble. So we grew really fast and really, reaching pre-pandemic levels quite easily. I'm sorry. But those employment developments are really conditioned by the implementation of the policies to fight the virus first and then to fight the impacts of the crisis. So lockdowns and general closures in the first and successive waves of the pandemic created a supply and demand crisis massive losses of employment in particular sectors. And then there is a compositional effect. This compositional effect also interacts with gender and age inequalities, I mean, gender segregation in the labor market. So probably those losses in small firms and low-skilled occupations are affecting more females than males, and more young people than older people. With those in mind, my feeling was that probably employment rates or employment headcount figures were not the best indicator to assess what's going on in the labor market. So I looked at actual work hours. And this is the picture. Okay. Picture is here we have employment rates. Okay. Taking again 2019 second quarter as a benchmark. And these are both average hours in light orange, and the total volume of hours actually worked. Okay. This is better. This is a better indicator. Well, it is more sensitive to the business cycle, but it gives also a more realistic picture of what's happening. In a way, it is able, this indicator is able to leave aside the effect of the definition of status employment, or the effect of the job retention or short time or whatever measures, schemes implemented. It also gives, although I do not explore it here, but gives a better understanding of the organization of working time and its implication for work-life balance. And it adds an economic perspective. We can get what is labor, how much is the labor input and how it changes. So it changes a lot. This fall is an important fall. And by 15%. And then it is true that they recover, they are like seasonal effects. Then again in the third quarter of 2022. And I don't know, the last reports of the European Central Bank talk about multi-crisis on the horizon. So we don't know, but to me it is at least interesting to look at this indicator as a complement to the other. Here we have the same picture, but by sex, by gender. Okay, so these are employment rates, females. At the end of the period, they have 40.3% more employment, according to employment rates, than previously to the pandemic. And men also, so good news for everyone, while we don't have the same for working hours. It is a symmetrical pattern for both men and women. Well, the shape is like more or less the same, but there are some differences. For instance, here it's better for women, and here it's worse for women. So what if, probably you don't see anything, But what if we also consider age? Okay, so I don't know if you can abstract yourself from the the youngest, the 15. Sorry, it says 16. The 15, 24 years old. Uh, these are like a thunder. I mean, they go up and down. So the big conclusion is that all the rest of the groups follow a more or less coordinated trend, but the younger, the under 25, are on their own and are doing strange things. So I
It
don't
seems
know.
weird that all your numbers for women are below the overall number. Like each age group is below the average for women. So it might need a little more. Like if you go to the previous slide, go back one. See, you've got 93.3 there for women.
Oh, yeah.
But every single group is above 90, is close to
Sorry,
100.
this is my fault. You know, thank you for the question because
There are different metrics, I take it?
I added I mean, they just, I just added here the third quarter of 2022. Okay,
Oh.
so sorry
So the
because
next
I
one,
didn't
so should be
realize.
comparing it to the one before.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
No,
That makes a lot more sense now.
sorry.
Okay, you clarified my question, so thank you.
Yes. Okay. So, younger and older groups are above the average. Okay, and the other are below. And here, more or less the same for males. So I put it here, I mean, the index numbers for females, males in the different quarters, and then I compare them. So the result is this graph. I just put the table for you to understand, but probably you can see better here the effect. So, as you can see, the younger are worse in all, I mean, are worse, I'm sorry. The comparison between 2019 and 2020 gives a similar picture for all the groups, but stronger here. The fall is stronger. And then the recovery is only, this is the total, is only sensible for the I mean, the advantage of women, okay, is in the recovery, but for all. So I was still puzzled. And I said, well, what could be the drivers behind those trends? So, of course, there is a sectoral effect. And there are many other drivers, but I thought that education was a good variable to understand possible differences. So what we find here is that the impact of the crisis, we can see that it has been largely driven by educational level inequalities. So we can find here only a positive balance for high educated, and actually it is in the only moment, in the only category in which females recovery is higher than males. Okay, so you can compare for low educated females 92.4 males 96, and so on and so forth. Here they are more the same, and here there is a difference. So with the same procedure, the advantage of women is only, here I compare with 2019, the 3 periods, okay? So, in fact, the advantage in the recovery for women is only for high educated women, not for the rest. In the rest, they lie below males. Okay?
Fortunately, there aren't a lot of women in that category. Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
But they're, well, percentage-wise, though, probably 20%.
I have it in mind at the European Union level, but it is a good question to ponder it and to wait the results. But it is like, I mean, education is everything. It's an umbrella, but it is also something that separates women inside, I mean, the category. So, you know, it may be, I'm sorry, it is not a die, it is a blow, but I didn't find another picture, a better picture.
I like that picture.
So, can we think of the crisis and the recovery as something good? I mean, at the end, the labor market is better than before. So, yes and no. I mean, we have, as said before, a paradoxical scenario. In contrast with the gloomist expectations, the crisis has increased the number of women in the labor market, has contributed to leveling out their presence in relation to that of men, has reduced slightly the gender gap, and also the younger, I know, but they came before again, the training was previous, the younger groups have recovered employment at a faster pace. So this progress is confirmed, is also reflected in the total volume of hours worked. So,
I'm going back to the previous slide, you kind of mentioned sectors, right? The feminized sectors. Is that something you get in the data? Can you look at by occupation, hours of work, or?
yes, I have I mean, there are some research done on that, on employment headcounts, but I did it on average hours worked. If you want to, when I finish, I can go.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether it's something about women or whether it's the occupations that women do, you know.
Yeah. So, but I don't understand your point.
Oh, I was just saying, is it something about the industries and occupations that women typically hold? Are they the ones particularly badly hit?
Yes.
Or is it something about women in general?
No, it is. I think this is a compositional effect. I mean, women are more numerous in some sectors that have been hit stronger.
Yes, so if you look at it by sector, you'll see it on female sectors, but not, you won't see it if you look at women in other sectors, you know, like in manufacturing, for instance.
Or would the gap between men and women be
Yeah.
pretty similar
Similar
within a given
within those
sector?
sectors.
But it's because women are more likely to be in
that.
services or healthcare that you
Right.
see these big things. I think that's,
Yes.
I think that's kind of because,
This is a complex effect.
well, I was thinking.
Yeah, this is a complex effect because at the same time, some of the other measures introduced, like telework, have protected women. Women in some sectors. Probably this driver of education is, is related to the fact that it is more skilled jobs, the ones that, were able to, at the office, you can work at the office or you can work at home, but if you are in a factory, you can't. Or if you are doing face-to-face services, you can't take them home, especially when, the home is also restricted for social contacts. So it is like a complex mix of effects that I don't know, they affect in different senses, but at the end it is educated women, the ones that are, in a better position, not the whole female labor force, but only the ones that were in probably more secure positions, in larger firms or in public administration, with high skills, with ability, or in sectors like technology or whatever. But technology, it sheltered everyone, not only females, but in some parts of IT jobs, there are also more women. So, just to say that this is very complex. So we have, as said before, shadows and lights. Okay, and so the recovery has been pushed by over 50 years old. And also the core age groups in the center are lagging behind. Younger groups, what we see is that an excess of volatility. I mean, the main conclusion I would extract is that there is too much volatility to be true. I mean, probably they were fired off because they were in temporary, more easily, redundant. And at the same time, with precarious contracts, you can come back to the firm. But I really wonder if in the kind of sectors that young people concentrate, they are able to take advantage of the government measures to flexible work. Because at the bar, at the little shop, at the whatever, small firms, sometimes almost family firms, companies, were not the ones that were able to take these retention employment schemes in the big in a sense. So I have my doubts about that. And then what is true is that the level of education has become a fundamental dividing axis, especially for women, widening both the gap between low and high skilled jobs and people, and leaving behind the less educated. And so it could have also some implications at the household level, especially if those that have been hit the more are in couples, in the low levels of the occupational scale. So probably, there is an even more polarizing effect. And just to conclude, yes, I wanted to highlight 3 points. First, that we have reasons to be happy, but not so much. and that the employment rates are taken as a target for the European Union social pillar, and so I think at this point are not reliable at all. So probably are not the best indicators to assess policies and all that. And the second one is that main impacts of the complex COVID-19 crisis effects are hidden behind the aggregate trends. And the most vulnerable groups may be facing additional constraints and problems, but we cannot research that, in the sense that those series are not published. I mean, you have to ask for an ad hoc extraction, explain for what. I have something that back you and say, yes, she's not, I don't know what she wants to do with the data. She's a reliable person. Okay, so this should be, yes, spread to everyone. I don't know. Okay, and the last one is that all this has happened at the same time that some other long-term trends like automation and digitalization were taking place, and those trends are having actually been pushed by the COVID crisis and the measures implemented. So there could be, we could be facing like a mismatch between the skills of the labor force and what is demanded. I mean, the new structure that is needed for those new jobs and for the future development of employment. So it should be interesting to combine those job retention schemes with training. So it could help facilitate restructuring and support skills upgrading for the labor force. And okay, that's all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, we've got time for some questions or comments for Olga Borla.
Thanks, Olga. That was really interesting. Good to see the trends over time. I think what you alluded to, I think all of this is probably being driven by home working and the revolution in our labour market about how now we've completely transformed how we work. And it's home working that's been affected. Women are more likely to be able to stay or be active in the labour market now, if they have childcare, if they have children. And men, sorry, Chris. But it's as you said, it's the more educated ones, because it's public sector jobs that are allowing home working. It's the bigger organisations that are allowing home working. Like we still in Ireland, there's public sector organisations where people have to work 1 day a month. They have to be in the office 1 day a month. Still, even today, that's all they have to be in is 1 day a month. You know what I mean? Which is affordable in most places.
You mean in the place, in the workplace, in the office?
Yeah, physically.
But they work.
They work full time.
No, I was thinking of considering moving here. Only 1 day a month.
Well, no, in the office. That's not easy. But it is the largest public sector organisation. That's still what they're doing, and it's just completely transformed how people work. But it is, you're right, it's higher educated. On average, higher educated people, and it's more likely women who are availing of it. So I think that goes quite a bit of the way in explaining. You know, the findings aren't so surprising given the transformation we've experienced.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID was a shock at crisis, but it transformed our labour market in terms of, for a large section. Not everyone, but for a good section.
Yeah. But the point is that I think there are some strong polarizing forces, and we are just looking at the moon, you know, at saying, okay, we are reaching the 78% employment rate because now we are 74 or 75, I don't know how And so the crisis, I don't know, the crises are too good for everyone.
Yeah. This new policy could be increasing inequalities
Yeah.
even more within.
Well, I was just going to follow up with the LFS now asks about working from home. And the question is how long they've been asking that question? Because you could possibly look at some of these things that Olga was pointing out. I have a different question, but I'll wait because I've talked a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give others a chance.
Question from the back?
I know that this isn't your focus, but I'm just interested as to why they did the breakdown of these figures. Sorry, I know this isn't the focus of the research, but I'm just wondering, would you know, from looking at this area and based maybe of whether this is broken down in figures as well, what's been the impact for people with disabilities of the pandemic?
For people, sorry?
With disabilities?
Oh.
Because, as Olga pointed out, home working has increased and you would think that would increase accessibility, but then also the COVID disproportionately impacted disabilities, make the workplace more dangerous. So I'm just wondering, would that be an area, I don't know, is that an area where people could have been?
No, I don't think there is information on that. Actually, there was, up to 2020, there was a variable asking for the reasons of working, being employed, but not working in the previous week. And one of them was sickness, another was parental leave or maternity, paternity, and also layoff or regulation, employment regulation. And so up to 2020 you can follow that, but then in 2021 they just put together all the people on vacation, on holidays, or sick, or taking care of others, or just being temporarily redundant. So it's a mess. And I don't know at the European level how it works, but I know in Spain that this new implementation, this definition of status employment was taken in a particular way. I mean, the thing was that I'm going to tell the case of Spain. Until 2020, until the implementation of this EU regulation, so if you were unemployed, but you had the expectancy of coming back to your job in less than 3 months, you were counted as employed. This, or if you were perceiving 50% of the salary, of your regular salary. Then in 2020, we didn't know that the pandemic was coming, so they decided to introduce the regulation in advance. Okay, so they were doing the field, and previously those that were earning, those that were for a longer period than 3 months, were, I don't know, probably in 2009, at the very most 20,000. Okay, and then they found that they were 1,600,000. So they didn't know what to do. I mean, because taking the new criteria was only if they are under 3 months in unemployment. But so they decided to be flexible. And at the end, we end up in the second quarter of 2020 with over 3 million people in that situation, which could have been added to the other 1,500,000 employed but not working because sick. So I know that I cannot trust, I don't know what happened exactly, because it was on one hand a very explosive change in the circumstances of people, but then also decisions at the statistical offices. So there is a report for each country. I was browsing it, and every country did a different thing. So the breaking series for Eurostat is in the first quarter of 2021. But I know that in Spain it's almost 1 year previous. And no, I cannot know many things. So that's why I was saying, I mean, forgetting the ad hoc extraction, so the head of unit of employment of Eurofound had to ask for that at the Eurostat and explain. I also asked for sector and occupation a detailed, 3 digits. I said, okay, I'm going to learn a lot. And they said, no, then we cannot give you a breaking age. I said, yeah, but I want age. So they don't give this detailed information because they say that it is not reliable. I mean, the statistical reliance is low, so they don't want or they are not allowed by the national governments to disseminate that data. But the truth is that if you want to know what happened, you can't, because employment rates and headcount rate, employment are not really reliable. I mean, especially at an aggregate European Union.
Chris, you have another question?
Well, more comments. Just sort of 2 potential suggestions. One was, I liked early in the presentation where you showed how this recovery looked relative to the global financial crisis. I think that would be useful here given your arguments about education, because in general, recessions always hit the least educated more than others.
Okay.
And it would be interesting to see if this, what you're finding here, which I was not surprised by at all, is just what you tend to see. How is this recession different, I guess? The second was, I don't think you can do it, but it would be very interesting to see to what extent these gender differences are being driven by presence of children.
But the person, they don't give that information, but the household files, and
Yep.
they only have yearly data, not quarterly.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, they collect the data quarterly, honestly.
Yeah, but then they separate.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that would be really interesting, because I can certainly tell you that my hours worked dropped the first 3 months of the pandemic trying to get the kids set up with homeschooling, and my wife did as much, if not more, assistance regarding homeschooling than I did. So,
Yeah. No, I'm completely conscious of that. So,
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll finish up there. Thank you very much for your questions and comments and advice for Olga, because it's gratefully received. Olga will be here for a little while longer. She's on the first floor here in Geary, so if anybody wants to meet up with her or discuss matters further, you're more than welcome to. And next week we will have our final seminar, just down here. We will have Claire Keane from the ESRI, okay? Okay, thank you.